UCLA. We'll talk a little bit about the South Carolina game, and certainly I think what stands out there is, not getting off to a fast start, getting off to a slow start, but, certainly, showed our resolve and resilience in coming back on the road against an SEC opponent. And, certainly you want to play better, mistake-free football. There was enough mistakes that, we have plenty to correct, we have plenty to coach to, we have plenty of things that we need to get better at. But having said that, we won the football game. We outscored them in the second half, and in doing so, we're able to come up with a hard-fought victory on the road. Certainly, some individual performances. We had a young freshman come in and play really well for us, and Caden Durham. Certainly Braden Swinson needs to be acknowledged that he was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. I think what's important is, from an entire team standpoint, to win games like that, you have to understand habits have a lot to do with it. Winning's a habit and losing's a habit. And if you have losing habits, you can't win those games. This group has the right habits. Now we have to be able to clean up the things technically. And they really come down to three things. Personnel, the coaching of the schemes themselves. Are we in the right schemes for our players? And then the preparation of such. And so it's one of those three things, and so we have to consider all those three things moving forward relative to the personnel, the schemes themselves, and certainly the preparation. And that's the work that's in front of us. We have to continue to work towards that. And look, when you have two first-year coordinators, they're learning their personnel, who they want to use, who are the best 11 in each situation, and then what schemes put us in the best position to succeed. And then now we'll have to go and prepare accordingly. And I wish we could have done that in preseason camp, but we didn't know a lot about who were those best players for that situation, and it's becoming a lot clearer. I think we're a lot closer to finding those things out, and we continue to look for getting better in those areas. So that's the South Carolina game. There's a lot of things that have to get better there. We'll get them better as we kind of transition to coming back at home against UCLA, a team that obviously, we played in 21. They beat us out there in 21. We get a chance on the back end of this home and home to play them in Tiger Stadium. We're excited to be back at home playing on ABC at 2:30. And, a team that has a lot of veterans. I mean, it's incredible when you look at, just playing a South Carolina team that had 6th-year players and 5th-year players. This defense has a number of similar players in terms of, I don't know that there's a freshman or a sophomore on their defense. This is a veteran defense, a lot of guys transferring in, a lot of veteran players on their defense. Big defensive linemen, athletic linebackers. Medrano's all over the field. And then from a defensive backfield, guys with a lot of experience back on the back end of their defense. Garber's the quarterback, transferred from Washington's played a lot of football. And they've got some talented receivers in Sturdivant and Flores. Harden has rushed for a lot of yards. He knows their system well. Eric Bieniemy is an outstanding play caller, veteran play caller. Again, I look at, this kind of matchup with a team that, they're going through the same thing. They've been at it, 2 games, right? They've got 2 games, and, Deshaun Foster is certainly UCLA grad. He loves his program. He's going to have them playing well on the road. And again, this is a lot about us and how we clean up the things that we need to clean up to be a better football team, playing against now, a Big Ten opponent that wants to obviously go on the road. And as we've seen, everybody's going to play their best against LSU, so we'll be prepared for that. So that will open up the questions.
Coach, the schematic and personnel changes you made on defense, did they have the desired effect, and do you plan to stick with them moving forward?
We haven't, we're going to look at everything, and we're still in that process of evaluating everything, right? In terms of what we're coaching, how we're coaching it, what players need to be on the field in certain situations, what is our, offense look like in certain situations. I mean, all of that needs to be looked at carefully. I think we've done a deep dive on all of it, but I'm not ready to kind of publicly talk about what we're going to be doing moving forward.
Hey, Coach, a lot of discussion about the 2 interceptions South Carolina had and ran back. They were called back because of penalty, in particular the second one. But what did you see after looking at it?
I saw a push-off in the USC game that was never called late in the game against USC. So you get my point, right? I mean, there's calls in every game. I didn't stand here in front of you guys and complain about that call, right? I mean, we could take every game that we play and we can micromanage every call that wasn't called or was called. They look like fouls to me. But I'm not here each and every week, to complain about calls or not complain about calls. Games are won by the players and lost by the players. If it gets down to that, call me out on it. You win and lose at the end of the day based upon coaches and players. And the other things I haven't seen in my years coaching that officiating decides a game.
Ryan, is your feeling coming out of the game any different, or what you have to work on, other than the fact, is it colored by the fact that you guys won the game? I know you said, and winning has become a habit, but otherwise, how you felt about the way you guys performed, is that any different based on the fact that you won by 3?
We beat South Carolina on the road in a sold-out stadium in the SEC against a team that beat the pants off of Kentucky, who played Georgia right to the end. So if we want to do that game, I guess we're going to beat Georgia by a lot. If that's how you guys want to play this thing. The reality of it is it's hard to win on the road. And given the fact that we made a lot of mistakes, we still found a way to win that football game. That's incredible resolve and resilience amongst your group. To keep your group, your young guys together. We had a lot of freshmen out there. We had a lot of young guys playing, and they kept playing. They kept believing. I can build off of that. Do we want to play cleaner? Yes. But at the end of the day, that was a good South Carolina football team. That was a good defense. We scored 36 points, and I think everybody watched the game. We didn't score inside the 5 twice. You just score those 2 touchdowns, which are, I think, an 87 or 88% chance of scoring touchdowns in that area. That's 50 points. So we're not that far off. We're not that far off. And if we make the 2 plays that we should make, just being fundamentally sound on the 2 run plays, we're going to give up less than 250 yards in total offense. So we're really close, and I'm not here to make you guys feel better. You guys are going to evaluate it and write the way you write it, but I know what we see, and I know how we feel about what we need to do. We left 14 points out there and could have scored a lot more and scored 36 on the road when we were down. We took control of the game in the second half with all those mistakes.
Over here on your right. So as you prepare for your second Big Ten opponent in the first month of the season, wondering, do you think the value of these games to a power conference team is improved when ostensibly a team from the SEC could lose every single one of its non-conference games and then win the SEC and still get in the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I think that analogy is valid, but I don't know that that's particularly, likely, because to lose to two Big Ten teams and then win the SEC championship seems to be a hard reach, right? I think these games were scheduled way before, the conference realignment. And so, I don't think that really had the kind of thought process. These were games that were, really thought for, the USC game in particular, was a kind of a start the season off game. It wasn't thought of as a Big Ten matchup, right? And then the UCLA game was certainly an arrangement between a home and home needing another game. And so I just don't think it was seen with that kind of vision. I understand the question, but I think we've answered it before that, these games will be looked at differently moving forward than they were prior to when they were put on the schedule.
I think there's a couple of those defensive line delayed game movement calls these first couple weeks. I'm just curious as to what the explanation was on these.
Yeah.
Kind of what your understanding of the rules.
Yeah, they were valid. The first one, we clapped to move our front, and you can't clap when the cadence is a clap. And that was just a mistake made by one of our linebackers. He was trying to get somebody's attention, and you just can't do that. The other one was one of our defensive end was moving, and as he moved his arms. And that is not a natural movement when you're sliding the front. So because he was in a 2-point and he moved his arms, they considered that an unnatural movement. And so we've coached our guys up on that. It has to be a natural movement. You can't have something unnatural relative to the movement of your front. So we agree with the decision in that, and we've really coached our guys hard on that movement has to be synchronized, it has to be natural, it can't be an unnatural movement.
Hey, Brian, could you give us an update on injuries, Zai in particular? And then I understand your point about, figuring out the personnel. I guess, could you explain maybe in depth why that is necessary? What it takes in seeing game film versus just fault game?
Yeah, again, I think when you have first-year coordinators, they're still figuring out their personnel, and as they're putting in their packages and getting into game situations, this is our first SEC opponent, and going on the road in that kind of atmosphere, you want to be able to see how your guys hold up to those situations. And I'm not saying we're making wholesale changes, but they get a chance to evaluate their personnel. And the big takeaway here is when you're making mistakes, it is, are you putting your guys in the right position? Do you have the guys in the right position, right? And then are you preparing them for those scenarios? It can only be one of those three things. And so all of those are on the table. So this isn't about a press conference that Coach Kelly's making wholesale changes. It's just one of the three options that we have to be able to consider, as well as, do we need to do things differently relative to particular schemes? Look, I've already made it clear, we've left 3 touchdowns on the board inside the 5-yard line. We have to clearly look at that scheme. We have to look at what we're doing in that area. That's on coaching, right? And so all of those things are on the table that we have to clean up from that perspective. And there was another part of the question.
Injury updates?
Yeah, I mean, I think we look pretty clean. Zai was much more, he lost his wind more than it was anything to do with his knee.
All right. Harold Perkins there, kind of moving to, I guess, strong side linebacker? Just
Yeah, that would be the best way to put it.
Okay. What did y'all think about him playing back there? And is that really similar to what he was doing last season?
It was similar, it's not the same. We're asking him to fit in the box a little bit more than he did last year. He was strictly an edge player last year. But I thought that there were some good things to build on, right? I thought he started to feel a lot more comfortable. He was in the action a lot more. There's growth there. I know he felt better and more comfortable. I think he would like to have a couple of plays back, maybe the first tackle of the game, had a chance for a safety. There's some things that he'd like back, but I thought by and large, I think he started to feel a lot more comfortable in playing and making some plays and playing with great energy. So I think that the first glance at it, in terms of where he played at the SAM, I think we walked away feeling like, okay, we made some progress here.
Brian, when you guys went back and watched the film, did you guys feel like Caden did enough to maybe be the first running back off the board for you guys going forward, at least for now?
Yeah, I think that's yet to be determined. I don't think we're at a point where, you know, he's going to be the guy. I think we're still gonna have all of those guys that are gonna be part of it, but he certainly saw the things that we were looking for. Look, they were running some things inside with their tackles that were kind of cutting off our combination blocks, which required patience to bounce at, and he really saw it well and was able to, you know, obviously get the ball outside. And, you know, you can't teach that, right? I mean, you can talk about it, you can say, hey, this is what you need to do, but you gotta just naturally see it. And so the vision, the wherewithal to do that in game, obviously is a positive for him moving forward.
Coach, have you heard back from the SEC offices on that punt play?
We'll get it here within the next hour. We have not gotten back the voiceovers from John. We'll probably get them within the next hour.
And with Aaron Anderson, in what specific areas of his game has he improved as a receiver since he's had a really good start?
It's everything. It's everything he does in his life. Going to class, being on time, his practice habits, framing the ball, catching the ball. It's just everything. It's just the natural maturity that comes with being in the program. You could see it coming, had a sense that this was going to kind of begin to show itself for him, where there was going to be more production because his process was so much better. And I think that that's going to continue for him.
Garrett's done so much right. Is there anything, you spoke to the red zone issues, is there anything there that you see that you'd like him to tighten up?
Well, certainly. I mean, I think everybody, the quarterback is going to be the most scrutinized position in college football. Look, Garrett, I think he leads the country in touchdown passes. You know, we have no chance to win that game unless he makes some of the incredible throws. But there's more to it than just arm talent. You have to bring some of the other intangibles, and he's growing too. Like this was his third game on the road, and he shows the resolve and the leadership to keep us in there. You know, mounting a 55-yard drive, you know, at the end of the game there to get us in the end zone. So, look, I mean, we all have to get better. Coaches and players alike, he does as well. We got a talented quarterback, but he knows that there's some growth there. And the great thing about it is there's not a more committed guy on our roster. We've got a lot of committed guys, but Garrett's so committed that he's going to work at his craft.
Yeah, Brian, considering the opponent Saturday and the atmosphere in the conference game and it's a hyped-up crowd, do you feel like you learned more about your team this past Saturday than the first two games combined?
Heck yeah, absolutely. You learn so much about, you know, look, just being on the sideline and listening to your team and how they're handling setbacks, like snapping the ball, you know, when you're not supposed to snap it. How are the other players talking to him and propping him up in that situation and making sure that he can bounce back from that. And just hearing the positive talk on the sideline when we're down. Kyron Lacey's going up and down the sideline, when we took the lead in the fourth quarter, saying 8:56, remember 8:56 against USC. So you learn that this group understands that there's so much more to this game than just between the lines. It's between the ears as well. And it's a group that wants to do well. They know what they have to clean up, but you learn so much about a group. When you have a resilient group like that, you want to coach harder. You want to do more for them and make sure that you eliminate. Because if you eliminate those mistakes, like I said, you could have put 50 points or more on the board. And if your run support and structure is better, you eliminate those runs and they don't get into the 30s. So that's why our staff is so anxious and excited about getting back out on the practice field.
Coach over here, so, right here. So the defense, I know that was a positive performance from Saturday as far as rushing the passer, were able to get the quarterback 5 times, forced 3 fumbles. So what can you say about the improvement from just the ability to pass rush and get to the quarterback and make some of the splash plays?
Yeah, I mean, look, whatever the narratives are, I can't control them, but I know what I look at, right? And I know what I see, and what I see is a defense that internally, especially when we all thought that, our defensive tackles were, going to be a problem for us, they're playing fundamentally sound football for us. Our ends, Swinson was named the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Savion Jones is playing really well. Gabe Relaford is playing as a true freshman. Womack was hurt. We'll get him back. He adds to the depth. We were able to move Parrish Shand inside to help with that. That front is doing very well. And then we know about the talented 3 linebackers. It's about continuing to build the back end of our defense and continue to contest catches, be sound in run support with our secondary. But more than anything else is create havoc. And we did that. We got the ball out. We came up with turnovers. We came up with key stops. Obviously, we talked about the bad snap. We come up with a field goal stop right there, which was huge in the game. We get the interception from Zai. So there's a lot going on there. We're not there yet. There's no doubt. But we are making the progress necessary with the group of guys that we have. We're making the kind of progress where I feel like we're not there yet, but we're getting closer.
We continue to rotate a lot at safety this week. Did you think you found something in particular? Deshaun Spears, how did you evaluate her first time in an SEC environment like that?
Yeah, I mean, first time, he wasn't put in a lot of high-stress situations purposely. We wanted him to get into the game. We played a lot of one high. We kept him in the middle of the field. I thought he did a nice job. We'll continue to develop him. Major Burns played a lot more safety because we're playing with the Buffalo package with the Sam linebacker being in there instead of the star. But at first glance, it looked pretty good. There'll be other guys that will play there as well, but we were pleased.
Got time for 2 more?
Mason Taylor, it seems like when you need a play, you're kind of in a rut. It seems like he comes through pretty often. How nice is it to have a reliable tight end like him to make those catches?
No doubt. I mean, and we even talked about at halftime, we probably could have targeted him with all of their actions led by their linebackers downhill. There were more opportunities for him to get the football, maybe in some 3rd down and short situations that we needed to target him even more. And I think he had 8 to 10 targets. But I think what's exceptional about him is his yards after the catch. He's been able to do some really big things for us in yards after catch. And obviously he's got a great relationship with Nussmeier. He sees him, he knows where he is, he's looking for him. He's been great in line. He's done a lot of things for us that sometimes don't even go noticed other than the passing.
With Garrett, he's shown a real ability to be able to layer throws and put balls over linebackers' heads even under pressure. Those are the ones that Anderson that really stood out to me. So how has he been able to improve in that area of his game?
I think that's always been kind of his strength relative to his accuracy, and he's not afraid to put it in tight windows. He has great confidence in his ability to throw, we call phone booth throws, right? Throw it in a phone booth, and he's okay with tight coverage because he has just a great confidence in his ability to put it on somebody. You know, I think it's just a continued development of, you know, not all throws in those situations are green light throws. You know, some of them have to be checked down, some of them, and he's learning that. And the great part about it, as I said earlier, this is his third game, and it's only going to get better. And that's what I hope our fans see, that you've got a quarterback that after 3 games is leading the country in touchdown passes, and he's only going to get better.
What's the blue zone? You mentioned the blue zone.
Yeah, so we count back. So the red zone, the white zone, and the blue zone, like on the flag. So red, white, and blue. So red 20, white 10, blue 5, and in. So red, white, and blue zone in terms of the scoring zone for
Just
us.
heard you mention that after the game.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No.